Most people assume wealth is built through big financial moments, a major investment, a brilliant business idea, a lucky opportunity, something dramatic that suddenly changes everything. And honestly, I used to believe that too. If you spend enough time online, it's easy to think that the people who become wealthy must have done something extraordinary, a perfect investment at the right time, a bold decision nobody else was willing to make, a moment where everything suddenly worked out. But if you quietly observe the people who actually become financially secure over time, something surprising begins to appear. Their lives rarely look dramatic. They don't seem obsessed with money. They're not constantly chasing the next big financial breakthrough. Instead, their financial lives follow a pattern that looks almost boring. In fact, it's so ordinary that most people never notice it. But once you see this pattern, something strange happens. You begin noticing it everywhere, in coworkers, in friends, in families, even in your own life. And suddenly, a question begins forming. What if wealth isn't built through dramatic financial moments at all? What if it grows through something much quieter? Hi there, I'm Nell, and I've spent quite a bit of time trying to understand why money has always felt so difficult to grasp in real life. After thinking about it deeply, I began to find some answers. They may be simple, but I hope you'll take away as much from them as I did, or even more. Most of us grow up with a very simple idea about money. Work hard, earn more, life improves. It sounds logical, almost obvious, and for a while, it even feels true. Your first paycheck feels exciting, not because the amount is huge, but because it represents something new. Independence. You can finally buy things without asking anyone. You can make your own decisions. You can start building a life that feels like yours. Then your income begins growing, maybe slowly at first, but every raise feels like proof that things are moving in the right direction. Your lifestyle improves a little. You move into a slightly better place. You replace things you used to tolerate. Your phone gets upgraded. Your furniture gets nicer. You stop worrying about every small purchase. And for a while, everything seems to follow the plan. Work hard, earn more, life improves, but something subtle begins happening as the years pass. Your income increases, yet the feeling of financial security doesn't increase in the same way. Your responsibilities grow, rent increases, food gets more expensive, transportation costs more, small conveniences slowly become everyday habits, food delivery when you're tired, a subscription you barely notice anymore, a quick purchase that makes life easier after a long day. Individually, none of these decisions feel reckless. They feel normal. In fact, they feel deserved. You worked for this, so why not enjoy it? But over time, something interesting begins happening. The lifestyle that once felt like an upgrade slowly becomes your new baseline, and the money that once felt like progress starts feeling ordinary, sometimes even tight. There's a small moment that many adults experience, but almost nobody talks about it. It usually happens on an ordinary day. You open your banking app, you check your balance, and for a brief second, you pause. Not because something terrible happened, nothing dramatic, no financial disaster, but something feels slightly off. You know you're earning more than you used to. A few years ago, this level of income would have sounded amazing. Yet somehow the number on the screen doesn't feel as reassuring as you expected. You start mentally retracing the month. The paycheck arrived, rent was paid, groceries, transportation, a few small things that made life easier. Maybe dinner with friends, maybe replacing something that broke, maybe ordering food because you were too tired to cook. None of it feels irresponsible. In fact, if you explained your spending to someone else, it would probably sound completely reasonable. Just normal life. And yet, the money still seems to disappear faster than expected. That's when confusion starts creeping in, because according to the original plan, things were supposed to keep getting easier. Yet somehow life still feels financially fragile. Not necessarily bad, just uncertain. And when that feeling appears, most people assume the solution is simple: earn more. But what if the problem isn't income at all? What if something else has been quietly shaping your financial life the entire time? This is the quiet moment where many people begin questioning something they've always assumed was simple. If earning more money was supposed to make life easier, Why doesn't it feel that way yet? Why does progress feel slower than it should? Why does financial security still feel slightly out of reach, even when things are technically improving? Most people answer this question in the same way. They assume the solution is simple. They just need to earn more. But the interesting thing is that this feeling often continues even after income increases, which suggests something deeper might be happening. Something subtle, something that quietly shapes financial lives without people noticing it in real time. And once you start looking closely at how people's financial lives evolve over 10 or 20 years, a pattern begins to appear. The pattern most people miss. Something interesting begins to appear. At first, it's almost invisible. Two people might start in almost the exact same place. They graduate around the same time. They start working around the same time. They earn similar salaries. Their lives look almost identical from the outside. Same type of apartment, same kind of routine, same kind of paycheck arriving every month. For the first few years, there's almost no noticeable difference between them. Both are working hard. Both are trying to improve their lives. Both believe they're following the same plan. Earn more, live better. But slowly, their decisions begin drifting in slightly different directions. One person treats every raise as permission to upgrade their life. A slightly nicer apartment, a newer car, maybe a few more conveniences that make everyday life easier, better restaurants, more frequent travel. Small luxuries that once felt rare slowly become part of the routine, and it all feels reasonable. In fact, most people would say it's exactly what you're supposed to do. You worked for the raise, you deserve to enjoy it. Meanwhile, the second person's life looks very similar on the surface. They also enjoy their income, they also spend money, they also allow their lifestyle to improve. But something about their pattern is slightly different. Their lifestyle grows just a little slower than their income. Not dramatically slower, just enough to leave a small gap between what they earn and what they spend. At first, that gap doesn't look impressive. Maybe it's a few $100s a month, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. It certainly doesn't feel like wealth. But time begins doing something remarkable with that gap. Month after month, it quietly accumulates. A small emergency fund appears, then maybe a few investments. Then those investments begin growing on their own. Years pass, and the difference between the two lives slowly becomes visible. The first person continues working hard just to maintain their lifestyle. Every expense matters. Every financial surprise creates stress. Meanwhile, the second person slowly develops something incredibly valuable: financial breathing room, a sense that money problems are becoming less urgent, and eventually the two paths that once looked identical begin separating more and more, not because one person worked harder, not because one person was smarter, but because one quiet pattern had time to compound. And that pattern is what most people never notice while it's happening, because it doesn't feel dramatic in the moment. It just feels like ordinary life unfolding. But over 10 or 20 years, ordinary patterns have a way of becoming extraordinary results. If any of this feels familiar, you're definitely not alone. A lot of people quietly go through this when it comes to money. And if this video is helping you see things a bit more clearly, you can support the channel by subscribing, leaving a like, or both. It also helps more people discover these kinds of conversations. The hidden psychology. The interesting part about this pattern is that it has very little to do with intelligence. Most people assume financial outcomes come down to knowledge, that if someone understood money better, they would naturally make better decisions. But when you observe how people actually behave around money, a different explanation begins to appear. The real driver is psychology. Human beings are wired to value what feels good right now. When something improves your life immediately, your brain rewards that decision. Buying something new feels good instantly. Upgrading your lifestyle feels good instantly. Convenience feels good instantly. If you've had a long day at work, ordering food instead of cooking feels like relief. If your income increases, improving your lifestyle feels like progress. And because these decisions make life easier in the moment, the brain quietly reinforces them. But saving money works very differently. You transfer money into savings or investments, and nothing about your day changes. No celebration, no excitement, no visible reward. Your future improves slightly, but your present stays exactly the same. And for the human brain, that makes saving feel strangely unsatisfying. This is why lifestyle inflation happens so naturally. Every time income grows, the brain immediately starts imagining how life could improve. A slightly nicer place to live, a better car, more convenience, more comfort. None of these choices are unreasonable, but each upgrade quietly raises your baseline for what life now requires. And once that baseline rises, going backwards becomes psychologically uncomfortable. This is one of the reasons financial progress often feels slower than expected, because every increase in income is quickly absorbed by a new version of normal. Your brain adapts incredibly fast to improvements. Something that once felt luxurious can start feeling ordinary within a few months, which means the financial satisfaction people expect from earning more money rarely lasts very long. But the interesting thing is that the same psychology works in the opposite direction as well. When someone begins building a small financial buffer, even a modest one, their stress levels begin changing. A small emergency fund creates breathing room. Investments slowly growing in the background create a sense of momentum. And once people experience that feeling of financial stability, the brain begins reinforcing those behaviors too. This is why the quiet gap between income and lifestyle becomes so powerful over time. Not because it feels dramatic, but because it slowly changes the psychological relationship someone has with money. Instead of constantly reacting to expenses, they begin feeling slightly ahead of them. And that shift, small as it seems, is where long-term financial change usually begins. At some point, people who have been paying attention to their financial lives start noticing something interesting. The people who slowly become financially secure rarely look the way we expect them to. They're not always the loudest about money. They're not constantly talking about the next big investment. They're not chasing every opportunity that promises fast returns. In fact, from the outside, their lives often look surprisingly ordinary. They go to work, they pay their bills, they live comfortably but not excessively. Nothing about their financial life seems dramatic, and yet, year after year, their situation slowly improves. At first, the difference is subtle. Maybe they're a little less stressed when unexpected expenses appear. Maybe they don't panic when their car needs repairs. Maybe they can take time to think about decisions instead of reacting immediately. But over time, that calm begins expanding into something much bigger. Financial breathing room, options, flexibility. And when you look closely at how they got there, you begin to notice a small detail that changes everything. It wasn't one perfect decision. It wasn't a single investment that changed everything. Instead, it was a quiet pattern repeated again and again. Their income continued to grow as their careers progressed, but their lifestyle grew just a little slower. Not dramatically slower, just enough to leave a small difference between what they earned and what they needed to live. That small difference created space. Space for savings, space for investments, space for time to do its work. At first, that space feels almost insignificant, but the longer it exists, the more powerful it becomes. Because time has a strange way of multiplying small advantages. And this is usually the moment where the realization begins forming. Maybe wealth was never about dramatic financial moves. Maybe it was always about protecting that quiet space between income and lifestyle. So, what exactly is the quiet secret behind how wealth actually works? After watching this pattern play out across years of real life, the answer turns out to be surprisingly simple. Wealth grows inside the gap between income and lifestyle. Not income alone, and not extreme frugality either, but the quiet distance between what someone earns and what their life requires to function. When income grows and lifestyle grows at the exact same speed, that gap disappears. And when the gap disappears, wealth has nowhere to grow. Everything that comes in goes right back out again. The paycheck arrives, expenses expand to meet it, and life continues at roughly the same financial level, just with bigger numbers moving around. Wealth is rarely created by one perfect financial decision. It is created by protecting the gap long enough for time to multiply it. Once people understand this, money begins to feel less mysterious. Because the secret was never about chasing dramatic opportunities. It was about allowing time to work inside the quiet space between earning and living. Understanding this idea doesn't mean someone has to suddenly become extremely disciplined or deny themselves every comfort. It requires a balance. And if money has ever felt confusing or overwhelming, it might help to remember something simple. You don't need to solve everything today. You don't need the perfect financial strategy. You don't need to suddenly transform your entire lifestyle. Sometimes the most powerful change begins with simply noticing the quiet patterns shaping your life. Not overnight, but steadily. Because in the long run, wealth isn't built through dramatic financial moves. It's built through quiet consistency. And over time, quiet consistency has a way of becoming something extraordinary. If this resonated with you, you might find value in the kinds of ideas we explore here. This channel is less about quick answers and more about understanding money with a bit more depth. Not just the numbers, but the patterns, decisions, and behaviors that quietly shape our financial lives. If that's something you'd like to keep thinking about, you're always welcome to subscribe. And if you found this video helpful, leaving a like helps it reach others who might be thinking about these things too. Either way, I appreciate you taking a few minutes to reflect on money with me. And don't forget this, wealth isn't the result of dramatic financial moves. It's the outcome of disciplined, consistent decisions made over time.
All right then, I hope to see you next time.